Alright, so welcome back. We are now finally, sort of finally, not exactly finally, but finally getting into making an MMD video. You may say, hey, I've got MMD installed, got all the stuff installed that you said to install, now what do I do with it? Well, unfortunately, we're going to have to do a little bit more of the here's what you have to get used to kind of thing. Everything so far was pretty much here's something you have to do once, and then sort of never again. What you see in this video, you'll have to do pretty much anytime you want to do anything. And some things you can stockpile on, so you don't have to do it every time, but you sort of have to do it eventually. So let's go ahead and open up our beloved MMD. Pop up our folder. Oops. MMD. MMD. Boom. Now what? So first of all, we'll do a general introduction. We have here the screen where you will see what's happening. There's not really much to say about it except that you can turn things on and off. So like the axis, you want to keep the axis on until you have things loaded in, and even sometimes after you have things loaded in. This I pretty much never use. These, the info one is kind of useful. It tells you, hey, things are really slow or not. But for the most part, aside from the axis button, you probably won't use much about this. This will help you out a little bit. You probably can't see what I'm doing. Or can you? Yes, you can. This will help you out a little bit for a little bit more advanced topics, I guess. But just know that what you're interacting with will be shown right here. And then you have your XYZ physical coordinates, like physical in space. I should probably use these. That would actually be more useful. You click and hold click and drag to edit these, or you can just type in, let's say 5 and hit enter. So that's that. You can zero it out by pressing on the letter, let's say, but you don't want to have y equals 0 because then you will become the axis, and you don't want to become the axis. Never become the axis. Usually it's 10 just because that's how tall the average model is. Whatever, just boom, there you go. And then the angles, kind of the same thing, just angles, so you can rotate X, Y, Z. Now if you want to know which is which, blue is Z. So if I rotate around the Z axis, you can kind of tell I'm moving side to side. If I'm moving around the X axis, I'm moving up and down. And if I'm going around the Y axis, I'm going right and left. So if you're wondering why you have 3 colored lines, X, Y, Z. So that's just a helpful tip. Again, you can always put in the numbers. Then you can scroll your middle mouse wheel, and that will affect your distance. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a second. But you have a distance here, so the closer you get, the smaller that number is. As far as buttons, your left click is just to select things, and we'll talk about what you're going to select later on. Your middle mouse button, when you scroll, it's your distance. When you press it, like click and hold your middle mouse button, you will pan, which means you move the camera. You move it in space, but you don't rotate it. When you right click, you rotate the camera, and you can see those numbers moving around. You really rotate just X and Y. If you want to rotate Z, you have to get to the perspective you want and then just rotate Z by hand. Again, you can just type in the numbers if you happen to know which kind of a number you're going for. But yeah, Z stays fixed while the other two rotate when you do this. You can, again, zero all of these out by just pressing that on the letter. Or you can type 0 into the box, but it's kind of quicker to do this. And then I can just click and hold till I get to 10 and zero out everything else. Boom. Simple, isn't it? Cool. So that's this part. Now what? Well, we can go here. Here is the, kind of hard to say. This is where you're going to actually register things. Registering means make it permanent. And these numbers are like time. So I should probably explain this later because this is a little bit complicated if you can't really see it. But just know that this is time, and as I move forward in this, I'm moving throughout time. That's the easiest way to explain it. You've got your camera, your light, any shading you do, and your gravity settings. If you want to change your gravity, you go under Physical Operations, Gravity Settings, and you can change, obviously, 9.81 meters per second squared. This one just goes to 9.8, but you can make it more specific if you want to. Noise is basically like a wind effect, if you have it. Again, gravity is pointing straight down, so -1 in the y direction, 0 in the x or the z direction. But again, you can change that if you want a wind effect or something. Then you can say, hey, let me just put it, you know, maybe straight back in the z and not in the y, and you can do all of that. And when you register it, it is registered here. If I say I want nothing at all at time 0, but when we get to time 25, I want boom. Then you register it, and you have this. So let's talk a little bit more about this. I'll introduce you to this concept, but I'll show it more realistically later. Is that you have these 2 points in time, right? This is probably not what I'm gonna do. Nope, that's not helpful. Let me just skip this then. We'll ignore that. Forget that. I promise I'll get to it, but we need to do a few things first. This is where you go to load models. So right now we're on our camera and our lights and our accessories. We load, and we can load in a model. We'll get to that in a second, but this is where loading a model happens. You can tell whether to display the model, you can do a few other things with the model, but this is where we load models in. If we're loading a camera, we load it here while our camera is selected. We load the motion and we can load a camera. If we have loaded in a model, then we select that model and we can load a motion for the model. And I'll show you that in a second. The camera, we can perspective or not perspective. Generally, perspective is better. You can have the camera follow something while it's moving. So let's say I have a model and I want to have the camera, you know, just behind the model's head constantly as it moves around the scene. Then I can tell it, hey, pick this model, pick this bone, follow it. That's more of a thing I may cover later on, but probably not, because it's not really used hardly ever. But it exists if you want to do that. I've used it once. It was a little bit more quirky than I expected, but it's cool. It's there. The view angle. So the view angle, I'll give you an example of later, but it's kind of like distance, but it incorporates, it's more like perspective than it is distance. And I'll show you the difference once we have stuff loaded in. Light is obviously light. That'll be pretty obvious. Red, green, blue, and then which direction is the light coming from, X, Y, and Z. Shading is quite literally shading, and I'll show you that. Accessories are where you load effects. Not the same kind of effects you do up in MM Effect, but sometimes, like if you have a reflective floor, you'll load that in here, and certain effects you load in here. And I'll show you some of those. View is just pretty obvious, like front, back, right, left, bottom, top. And you can track. I'll show you what tracking is in a minute. It's very useful, but not when you're under the camera. When you're under the camera, there's almost no point to track. And then play is quite literally the option to play your video. You can also select, again, since these frame numbers, frame manipulation, since these frame numbers are time, then you can say, hey, I want to start at frame, let's say 300. That way you start after the beginning. You know, you can start and stop if you want to preview just a certain section of your video rather than the whole video, then you can do that by typing in the frame numbers here. By default, MMD moves at 30 frames per second as far as this is concerned. So it will cover 30 of these per second. But when you render it, you can say, hey, I want each frame to actually have 2 pictures, which probably doesn't make sense to a beginner right now, but I'll kind of show you that later. So MMD will still go at 30 of these frames per second, but it will have 60 instances. And so you get 60 FPS. It's complicated, but just imagine that each one of these suddenly counts for 2 instead of 1. So you still go to frame 30, but because each one counts for 2, you get that nice smooth 60 FPS. And you can do that for as high as you want to. I don't know that MMD has limits. It just may tax your computer more or less or something like that. But yeah, so you can do more than 30 FPS in MMD. Just select that in the, or type that in the rendering part. So this is kind of level 1 stuff. That's just a guide to what all of this is. And we will go more into that in a second. Now, you see what this is, you know what it does, what next? Well, first we need a few things. We need models to move, and we need movements to apply to the models. Now, doing it by hand would be a massive pain, and I'll show you why in a second. So we're going to download them. They are freely distributed across the internet. Let's take advantage of that. Not in a malicious way, but let's do that. So, popping back into here, there are, I'd say, about 5, maybe 6 websites you want to keep in mind for this. Number 1 is DeviantArt. Number 2 is, we'll say YouTube. Oops, there we go. Wow, weird. Number 3 is the Japanese equivalent for YouTube, which is nico.net, I think. Nope, that's wrong. Oh, .jp. That should have been obvious. Whatever. The 4th one is the, I guess, Japanese version of DeviantArt, although it's pretty much MMD specific, which is bullroll.net. Again, it's Japanese, but if you use Google Chrome, boom, it will translate things for you. You will still want to have a good sense of Japanese for typing things, but you can use English too and just have a limited result pool. As you can see, you've got a few things that have been uploaded, but Japanese will definitely help you as far as using this site. But if you know Japanese or know a few of the keywords with Japanese, then this site can be very, very, very good resource. Number 5, I would say, is Bilibili, which, if you know Chinese, it's going to be more helpful. I don't use it so much for searching for things, but it may come up if you use this site, and I'll show you that, hopefully, in a second. And then if I had to say a 6th, no, that's pretty much it. I mean, those are the main ones. So if you're in DeviantArt, MMD model. Boom, look at all these MMD models. Just pop in, click one, boom. Okay, so we have rules. Don't use for, explicit content. They are allowing you to edit the model. You can redistribute it if you edit it, but give her credit. Give him or her credit. It's cute though. Don't sell it. Don't have, horribly grotesque content. Don't make money off of a video with it. Don't pretend like you own this one, because you don't. You didn't make it. Someone else did. Do not redistribute it if you did not edit it. Those kinds of things. You can post pictures of videos, but as long as you don't like make money off of the whole thing. So that's fine, you know? So most of the rules are going to be the same. Even in like Japanese users, it's pretty much the same stuff. Just don't pretend it's yours. Don't make money off of it. Don't use it for lewd content. Otherwise, you know, basically the whole community suffers when you do that. It's actually a problem. So legitimately don't do that. But yeah, otherwise you can download it. You can use it. You need a DeviantArt account, which is totally free. But you can download it. You can go to any of these other ones. Let's say, oh look, nine-tailed fox, cool. Bouncing llamas. Rules, pretty much all the same. Don't claim it's your own. Don't just take the files and then put them up somewhere else and pretend they're yours. Don't make money off of it. Don't use R18 stuff. Some people don't want it to be used in like VR chat, so they'll say don't use it outside of MMD. You can edit it, you can take parts, but like if you want the tail on a different model, you can, this person says, hey, you can do that. Just credit where the tail came from. Don't pretend like you made the tail, because you didn't. When you credit people, credit specific ones. So yeah, again, a lot of the rules are pretty much the same. They give credits to all the people who did their stuff, so you should too. It's a good thing to do. Make sure everyone gets credit for who does work. So that's this one. You can find models here, you can find backgrounds here, you can find all kinds of stuff on DeviantArt. So, you know, especially as someone who speaks English, this should be a very good resource for you. YouTube as well. MMD model DL, let's say. Boom. Video after video after video. Model DL. Random models DL. Model DL. 48 models. Download links in the description. Got a whole playlist of model DLs possibly. Follow the leader, model DL. Like you've got, you know, YouTube is another good resource. YouTube, we can also find motions. Sometimes you can find motions here. I don't usually go looking for motions here though, but you can definitely find them. But YouTube, motions, boom, 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 boom. Whole playlists of them. Boom, 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 boom. Motion DL. Like it's everywhere. So, very easy to find models, motions, backgrounds. You can find backgrounds on here too that are pretty good. So even if you just limit yourself to these two sites because, hey, I don't know Japanese or I don't know Chinese or anything like that, and I don't want to use a site that uses it, let's say, boom. Two perfectly English-speaking resources that should work just fine for you. Nico, you can look for stuff. I will come back to this one later, really. Bull roll, you're going to want, again, if you do model just in English, boom, you've got results, you've got models, you've got all kinds of stuff. Generally, you're going to get more results and better results if you use the Japanese word for model, which is this. It literally says moderu, model. No big surprise there. And voila, a lot of the same results come up, but you get more stuff in general. So yeah. So model, there you go. If you want a motion, you can obviously type in motion. You got Gimme, which was kind of a good one. A Paura del Buio. Some of these are cameras, so they're the motions for cameras, not for models. It's not going to be a dance, it's going to be a camera movement. So that's that. You can also look for, this is the Japanese word for motion. Guess what it says? Motion. Cool. It's not complicated stuff. If you at least know the alphabet, you can pronounce these. But yeah, so you've got motions. There are a few things to note. Is that, like this one, it says motion, so you think, hey, that's the dance I need. Not quite. It also says right here, these last three, camera. So this is a camera motion, not a body motion. So you want to look for those. You want to look for camera. There's also, let's see if I can find it. I'll come back to this. This is a good word for you to know. Usually it doesn't take too long to find one. Here we go. You'll see this. Like, here we go, camera motion. So it's just for a camera. It doesn't include that. The actual dance for G4L. This one is lip motion, aka your ah, e, oo, eh, o, all the vowels and movements of your mouth. Sometimes it's usually the mouth, but sometimes it'll include facial movements. But that's just the face. It doesn't include any body movement. So for this one, sorry, for lip motion. So if you see that, that's just for the face. Most main motion will include the face, will include the body, and sometimes they include the camera. Usually, like the main file will include the camera. The first person who did it will include a camera and probably the audio and the body motion and facial motion all as one. You will definitely see that, but sometimes they don't. Sometimes it's just a dance and they don't have mouth movements or that kind of thing, and so you'll want to look up. It happened more, say a few years ago than it does now. But yeah, there are sometimes alternative lip motions. There are definitely alternative cameras out there. So, you know, get the main file, I'd say, download the main thing, and then if the camera seems kind of boring to you, then look up a second camera for it. Like the Palo de Brio camera. Like I can probably search anything, honestly. I don't know. Let's see if the English. Nope. Luckily, I don't have it on this monitor. Luckily, I have the Japanese keyboard installed on my computer because I happen to know Japanese. So get done. Don't know if it's going to be in which character it's going to use, but probably this one. Okay. So as we can see, whatever that is, it's a motion, but it's probably not the right one. Wow, these are all bad results. None of those are really what I wanted. Let's try this version. Nothing. Okay. Fine, I'll pick one I know I can get. Because bad examples serve as bad examples. Go figure. But it's gimme, isn't it? There we go. Lots of them. So as you can see, the original motion probably wasn't from this site. But yeah, boom, 2, 3, because camera right there, 4, 5, 6, 7. You've got at least 7 different camera motions for this one dance. So it's kind of important that you can search for alternative cameras, which will make a big difference, by the way. This copy, they show the password, which is nice. But this is the character for, basically, it's not exactly download, it's more like distribution. But if you search that, then you can frequently find, actually let me add to it, whoops, fine, go away. Which language am I in? English, back to Japanese, okay. You can frequently find, again, it's basically motion download. Face, that's the characters for facial movements. Facial movement download. Again, motion download. So you can search this if you know what phrases to type in. You can search for that. Let's ignore that though. We can ignore that too. When you go in here for just any download, let's just go to random file. I want to, let's say, download. Ooh, look at her. She's cute. Let's go here. I can download her for basically for free. I have to do absolutely nothing except hit the download button. So that's nice. But if I go, and you can tell that also because there's no key up here. So this one I can just download, this one I can just download, this one I can just download, this one I can just download. But let's say I go to, I don't know, I want to get a good example. And one that I would probably actually want. First I thought that was the model. Heck, camera. Stay Tonight's a good motion though. Clothing download. That's not really what I want. Let's find a good example. There's not going to be one, is there? I've just picked a day where nothing particularly interesting was uploaded. Also, this is a great site for models and for stages and for motions. Like, this is a good all-in-one site if you know Japanese. If you don't, DeviantArt and YouTube are your best bet. Let's pick this guy. Why not? Sure, I have no idea who you are. If I come down here to download, well, I have to log in, first of all. Oh no! I'm not going to do that. Oops. Not what I want. Nope. Get out of my face. Ah, my face! There we go. And then I go to just do files. So this means you have to log in the person's face. It's a sky dome, sure, why not? It's kind of boring, but voila, you need a password. That's all I really wanted to show you. I will actually go through the downloading process, but I want something a little bit more worth my time. Oh, this is such a bummer that I can't find any good examples. What's a good character for me to download? That'll work. That's a good idea. Where is my cursor? Irudu. From Dragon Maid. Let's see if there's a model out there for her. Look at that. Has a key too. Oh, this is Fairy Tales Lucy. That's not really what we want. Bummer, so they don't have Irudu from Dragon Maid. Let's find a different person. I don't know, let's just say we search for Miku. Let's just go with Miku, why not? Miku, always a good person to get. Doodle-doo, 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 doodle-doo. Oh, and this means it's time limited, so this will eventually no longer be available, which is very unfortunate. I was hoping that this would be a much quicker process. Sure, this one looks cute. Look at that, she's pretty. We have no idea what the password is. Luckily, they gave us a Nika video link. Automatically opens in a new tab. Download this website. Password. This is common. It's not always going to be true, but it's common. is take the web address and take the SM number, and this one just says numbers only. So we will take out the SM, copy, paste. If you're ever guessing at a password, that's the first thing to guess because that is kind of common. They'll just say, hey, just take the SM, the whole thing, or just the numbers. Those are the two things to just guess if you have to totally guess. So cool, we did that. It's downloaded. Open it in your favorite program. And so that I can show it to you. Oh no, the name looks like Garbledygook. What do we do? Well, let's just go ahead. Fun fact, you see how the name right up here is correct? We will take advantage of that. There's a way to make sure that your system does it correctly, but you have to basically switch your system to Japanese, which doesn't change your actual file structure, I don't think, but it tells it to expect Japanese characters, and so when it does see them, it will display them correctly, and then we'll get scrambled like they do here. However, there's another way to deal with that, and I will show it to you in just a second. Sorry, making sure we get to the right place here. So when we go to extract it, this pops up in my good old WinRAR. Go away. And so once it's popped up, I've got my models folder. I've actually already got a Vocaloid folder, so I'll just click that, click the folder I want it to be in. Let's hit new folder. What does it do? Correct name. Boom. So we just hit that. So now, within this folder, let's say, within that folder, it will still display the Garbledygook folder right here. However, if we need to, go back and find who made it, there's going to be a README file, and I guess I can go into that. But here's the actual name of it. So if we need to go back and figure out who made the model, or what the name of the model actually was, it's there. So we can go back and search it, and boom, it'll be the exact same thing as this. So isn't that nice? So that's how you download stuff. Same thing as for motions. So I won't show you all that, but you can basically go in here, and the motion I plan to use, boom, is, let's see if it's on here or not. No, that's fine if it's not. I actually got it from DeviantArt. I think it was this one. Yep, BTS Dope. Same thing on here, you just go, Urashi made the camera motion. You can download it from the Patreon post. This one downloads right here. You don't have to be a patron. I'm not a patron. I'm not even logged in, for goodness sake. So yeah, again, you've got your rules here. Don't use it for explicit videos. Don't pretend it's yours. Don't make money off of it. Don't edit it and then pretend and then distribute it like it's yours. Don't convert it to some other format. So again, most of the rules are the same, generic stuff, but it's important to pay attention to it. And they give the password for it when you're doing all of that. So that's what I'm going to use. So we go into here. Like I said before, when we're loading a model, press this one. And I'll go into where my model was downloaded, which was in the models folder under V for Vocaloid, and it was this particular one, Garbledygook, but we know it's this one right here. It'll pop up some information about the model. You can read it or you can not. And that's what it looks like. It's not honestly my favorite, but it's okay. So voila, we have imported a model. That's what it looks like. There you go. Now, I'm under the camera right now. When you load the model, it immediately goes to the model I guess, tab. Once you do, you'll notice a few things change. First of all, you have all of these. They're bones. Good to know, right? So fingers. You have all the fingers. Hair. You have all the hair. When you see null, null means it does not have an English name. And that's kind of level 2 stuff. I'll show you about that later. But just know that if it's given an English name, it will have the English name like lower body and skirt. If it does not have an English name, it will just show up as null and some number. Luckily, you can figure out what stuff is by clicking on that. And right now it's got the name of the model, but it highlights here, arms, arm right. Cool. So that's about the model. Once you're in the model tab, it shows again the model name. You can delete it. Outside parenting is a more advanced topic, so we'll skip that. You've got your bone manipulation, which means you can select stuff. Turn that off. Turn that on. Box selecting is just what it sounds like, selecting things with a box. You can select all, you can select just the things that have not, things that have been changed but have not been made official. There's a few more buttons here. Reset, register, very important one. And then models tend to have extra settings like facial movements. That's what's in this box, so like blinking is a very standard one. Close and open. You've got other ones that tend to show up like blushing or just different extra things. So that's an important one. You've got your mouth movements. So that's that. I'm not going to use this one, but there you go. Now you've seen that. The model I'm going to use is actually some I got recently for Overlord. We have Momon. I'm not going to use their weapons. I'm just going to use them. And we're going to load the motion to Momon. As you can see, all of his bones are pretty much in Japanese and not in English. So none of them will display the name for it. Now we will go to the motion. We chose BTS, dope. There's the camera file, the motion. There are several people. So, boom. Second person, as you notice, we are back in the models where we last loaded people. Don't think I want that one. I think I want the regular Shaltier. Boom. We will load a motion for her. We'll give her number 2. We will load good old Lord Touch Me. And anything you do here does not actually affect your camera, it just affects how you view the model because we're in the model settings. So you have lots of freedom here. We'll give him number 3. We can add in good old Einzulgon himself. I'll just do the regular model real quick. Boom. Isn't he intimidating? Load motion. Give him 4. Nice. Let's load Albedo, I guess. Give her number 5. That's probably a problem. Let's move her. How far can we get away with this? Right there should be fine. So we moved her. We want it to be permanent, so we have to register. And boom, it has been made permanent. Got a couple more people we need to do. I forget who this is. Let's see who this is. Oh yeah, it's Spider Psycho. Okay, let me just move him backwards instead. Is that him? Yep. And you can tell who's selected by where the bones are. Sometimes you have to pull people free. Registering that, because again I moved him, I want it to stay where I moved him. And I need one more person. Did Shaltier, did that, did Momon. I think he had a couple other ones, right? Oh wait, that's the staff. Took me a second to read that. So we'll do this one. And that's okay, that's pretty cool. Good. So load the motion and boom. So now we have automatically applied these motions. If you look around the scene, you'll notice that only 2 people are visible right now. So we can control that with what just happened? There we go. We can see where he is based on his bones, but just visibility, invisibility is this button right here. We'll keep it the way it is, but let's go back to the camera, and boom, the camera resets to where the camera is. We will load the motion for the camera. Boom. It's a little bit short, so let me edit the camera motion. This is just a very simple thing to do. You want to have your stuff selected, and it is. As soon as you load stuff in, it stays selected. Going to multiply camera angle position, and then again, here's your XYZ location, X, Y, and Z angle, your distance, and your V angle, which is your view angle. I'll show you more about that in a second. But this, we just want it to be higher. We don't really want to multiply everything. We just want to add a little bit. And then, again, height is our good old y-axis. So we'll say 2. Hit enter. Boom. Eye level looks pretty good, so we'll keep it there for right now. So what else do we need? We have the motions, check. We have the camera, check. We have the models, check. We need the sound. So load wave file. You can do this from any menu. You can do it in the camera, or you can do it in any of the models. This is equally useful. Boom, came with the motion. Make things easy for me. And you can see it loads in up here. It has to be a wave file. It's always a wave file. If it's not even the right kind of wave file, then MMD won't see it, and you won't ever get to use it. Now, as for, that should be everything except for our good old background. We want this to happen somewhere besides just a white space with an axis on the ground. So, if I move through time, this resets because I did not register it. Very important. If you want things to stay the way they are, you register it. If you want things to undo, you can just move this around and it'll undo everything you did. Unless you registered it, in which case there's an undo button, but I don't really rely on that because it's finicky. You'll understand what I mean by that if you use it. But let's go to a place, background, places, I don't know, I'll pick anything really, but I'll pick one that's somewhere I know is going to be a good place, I guess. Oh, let's see, I think one down here would be a good one. Let's go with, I don't know, what's a good place? Well, now I'm conflicted. We'll try this one. Nope, that is not a good one. Mostly because I can't load it because there's nothing there to load. Stage, okay, let's try that. It's loading. Boom. This is not really fitting for these people. So let's delete. Okay, so that's interesting, but not exactly what we're going for, is it? How about silent garden? Nothing wrong with a garden, right? Can't go wrong with a garden. Okay, we went wrong with the garden. That's okay, I know one that'll work perfectly well. I have no idea what just happened, but it just loaded something. Was it here or was it the other one? No, I think it was this one. Also, I put parentheses for the videos I've used them in. There we go. God is dead. Kind of apt for these people. We have one that's just the main stage itself, and then one of these ends up being the backdrop. There we go. So, now let's hit play and see what we've got now that we've gotten pretty much everything. Because we've got a background, check. We've got our music, check. Got our models, check. We've got our motion, check. We've got a camera, check. So pretty much got everything. Everything we need for a basic video. So we can either go to the camera, boom, or if we're in a model, we can hit this track button, and it will, even though we're in the model section, it will move with the camera. So, very important thing. But I tend to just go with the camera, just to keep my stuff straight. We will hit play, and we'll watch the whole thing.
어서 와. 방탄은 처음이지?
Notice the things that we probably need to fix, also. Watch critically. There's one thing that's kind of glaring. Like that too.
세대 5포 세대 그럼 난 6포가 좋으니까 6포 세대 언론과 어른들의 의지가 없다면 우리 싹초식처럼 해보기도 전에 죽여 enemy 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 벌써부터 고개 숙여 받아 energy 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 절대만 포기기 너희나 너니 너 안에 새벽은 나보다 예뻐 Can I get a little bit of hope? 다들 청춘이 get walk go 밤새 일했지 every day 네가 클럽에 쏟을게 yeah 작은 속들과 다르게 I don't wanna say yes I don't wanna say yes 소리쳐봐 alright 몸이 타버리도록 all night fire
If you ever want to stop it, by the way, just hit play again and you'll stop it.
이런 게 방탄 스타일 거짓말 획들과는 달라 매일이 hustle life I gotta make it fun baby 이런 게 방탄 스타일 거짓말 획들과는 달라 매일이 hustle life I gotta win 난좀 짜라
Okay, so we watched it. How many things did you see wrong with it? I saw at least 4. First of all, there's this glaring green line. That's the axis. We should probably turn that off. Voila. Number 2, as you can see right now, the shadows are white. We can change that here. Get rid of transparency is one thing you can do so that it doesn't look like it's surroundings. Sometimes it can turn blue and that kind of thing. You can also change the actual ground shadow color. You can make it brighter, but mostly I tend to make things darker. Especially on dark ground like this, you can get away with making it very dark. So that was the first 2 things I noticed. What else? Well, let's go forward a little bit. Einzulgon, very big guy. But number 3 had to be the height. Certain heights are bad. We kind of want this to be down here where we can see her. So what we would need to do is to select these cameras and fix the height on specific parts of the video. So number 3 was height. Number 4, you don't really have to do, but you can. Well, I guess number 4 is the fact that parts of the stage are getting in the way, so we can adjust the camera so that we don't have that kind of interference in the video. Part 5, so I guess there was 5, because shadows you may not have seen unless you watched it a second time. But, did you notice how let's get to it, let's get to it, let's get to it. This was good. And then boom, when he's in front, you can't see anybody else. And he is frequently in front. Like, I can't see any of these people. I can kind of see Momo, and I can kind of see, I can barely see the outline of her, and I can kind of see him. That's it. So honestly, it's a cool thing to have him in the front, but being realistic, I probably want the smaller people in the front and a big guy like him or someone tall like Momon to be in the back. Just so you can see everybody, just so you can have something more aesthetic than that. And that's going to be the basics of, I'm not going to fix all of that on camera for you right now, but that's going to be the basics of making a video is, first of all, I guess, searching for everything. So, again, going through, searching for all the stuff you need, downloading it, and then loading it in MMD, but then kind of looking at it like, okay, are the shadows weird? Do certain models need to be in the back and certain models need to be in the front? Now, if you just have one model, then a lot of that goes out the window and it doesn't matter because it's just one model. But for group motions, you need to worry about that kind of stuff, or it helps to think about that kind of stuff at least. And then, yeah, noticing if pillars get in the way, noticing if the camera is too high, which is why you want to watch it through, you want to fix what you see wrong with it, and then you want to watch it all the way through again. Or you want to watch certain parts when you fix it to see if they got better or if maybe you fixing things made things worse. So yeah, that's kind of the gist of making an MMD video. Once you have a version of this that you like, you want to go to File. First of all, you want to save it. Saving is always a good idea. And when you save it, like I said, it will save, this is just here. You want to go into your Files section and you want to save it. It will save the PMM, but as soon as you save it, it will make that EMM I was talking about. And that will, again, list out what all you've got going on in the scene. It will list out, hey, this is the stage we used and where it's located on your computer. These are the models you used and where they're located on your computer, all that kind of stuff. Here's the motions that we used for the camera and stuff and where all of that's located on your computer. So you will have two files when you save it. You generally don't want to render it right after you save it. You want to change one thing in a very small way. I don't know why it is, but there's a glitch where MMD tends to freeze when it renders if it renders right after you save. So you want to save things and then change an angle by, like, save it and then maybe go from here to here. Small change. Register and then render it. Don't ask me why, but that's a thing that happens. So if I just 1, 2, 3, 4, cool, that's going to be its name. Here we have the size of the file. I tend to do 4K just because my computer can handle it. Here's where we put our frame rate, so 60 FPS. We can record specific parts of it if we want to, or the whole thing. So mine goes from 0 to 7190. We want the audio to be a part of the file because duh. And then you pick whatever renderer you want. AVI RAW will be a massive, unbelievably massive file, so don't do that one. You may need to install codecs. I recommend, and Learn MMD recommends, the K codec Lite pack. That will give you at least, I'm going to give you some of these, right? But it'll give you at least FFD show, which is one I use pretty much exclusively. If your renderer has some settings, you can put that here. Like sometimes you can set the quality. And then you just hit OK and it will render it. And that's the gist of it. It will come out as a video file. It will always come out as an AVI file. So you probably want to throw it into a video editor and then export it as an MP4. But that's entirely up to you. And that's how you do MMD. You can also do, let's say I don't know, 2140. I really liked how things looked. Wow, that's actually really cool. You can also render it to a picture file. In which case, again, 1, 2, 3, boom, took a picture, saved it where I had it. So, very simple stuff. Okay, so one other thing to note is that I did mention I would come back to the difference between view angle, whoops, cool, view angle and distance. I'll go ahead and show you that now. Right now you can kind of get a sense that they're very close together. If I back the heck up with my distance and I get closer with my view angle and then move around, they're still pretty close, right? Now let's reset that. They seem pretty far away now, don't they? They get a little closer though, so it's okay. Now let's say I get really flipping far away with my view angle, try to get really close with my distance. Look at how skewed they are. So you see there's kind of this weird bubbling and skewing of things. That's the difference between distance and view angle. That's why I say view angle is more like perspective, whereas distance is true like how far away you are from things. So that's an important difference. Other things I said I would show you, obviously about the axis, showed you about the background, shading. Well, let me go through some of this too. Lighting, you'll see a lot better now. I didn't really go over it, but if I drop the red, if I boost the red, drop the green, boost the green, drop the blue, boost the blue. Let's say I drop all three, so they're still balanced, but they're just lower. You can get this kind of darker thing. If I move the actual light source, you can see it moves the actual light source all around. I can just reset that. Shading, generally it doesn't matter a whole lot, but you can change how much the shadows affect it. But if the shading is actually maxed out, it goes away. So don't ask me why that's a thing, but that's a thing. So just know that that happens. We'll get to the accessories in later levels, and I already showed you about this. There's a volume. I don't think you really care. You just adjust your computer's volume really, and just leave that constant. And the rest of it really doesn't matter. You won't use it enough for it to matter, except possibly object parenting, which is a more advanced, or outside parenting, which is a more advanced topic. So we'll skip that. As far as making a motion by yourself, I did talk about that. What you will see is that, let me go to the very end and just do this from a position. Good old Lord Touch Me is standing there. If I want to make him do anything, right, I will have to select the thing, move it, register. Select, let's say I've got this foot that I want to move. Let me see, it's tiny on my screen, but move the foot. You're probably getting a sense of things by now, but like, you can tell that this would be a very long process to do each and every, like let's move the arm, because the arm's a lot simpler than the feet, for reasons you'll find out later. I would have to like move this, nope, not that way, okay, move, nope, that's not the way I want it to go, move up, okay, cool, and then let me register that, and let me go to this arm, and let me move it this way, yeah, and then register that, and then let me expand it so I can see the different things that I'm registering. Let me get the hand, move it, nope, not, I'm kind of that way, that doesn't hurt, but there we go, and register that. And now I want him to move it back in, so I want it to come in here, move it like that, cool, register that, move this one, register that, move this, there we go, register that. Actually, I want it to take longer, so let me put it out there somewhere. So from 7190 to, I don't know, 7300. Let's play just what I did just now. And I won't track it because the camera won't follow him, and I'm not in the camera, so the camera still won't follow him. It'll just be, it will look right here at what I'm looking at, and that's what we want. So I just spent all that effort doing that. It takes way too long to do things by hand. We'll talk about, certainly editing things by hand isn't too bad. Again, if you need to move the model, let's say a little bit left or a little bit right, boom, boom, and register. Like, it's repositioning things is not so bad. For those of you who have been following for any decent amount of time, the Goku motion I did recently with the violin, that violin, first of all, was not originally that size. Second of all, it didn't fit Goku. So I had to, by hand, like this, reposition his arms on the violin a few times. So It just takes some time, but repositioning is not so bad. Making a whole motion from hand takes a flippin' long time. So that's why you don't see me making very many motions. There are easier ways to do it than doing everything by hand, but that's a more advanced topic, and we'll get to that later. Also, last thing we did not talk about, that I said I would talk about, is this bottom left pane. Whenever you have a pose, which is just a split moment in time, like this how he is right now at 70.95 is a pose. And 70.94, he has a slightly different pose. 70.93, he has a slightly different pose. Going on and on. These sequences of poses through time are motions. So, when you load a pose, you are loading a moment in time, and you will actually have to, when you load the pose, you'll see. Let me just pick one. Sure. Boom. He takes the position, but nothing is registered. So when you load a pose, you have to actually register it for it to stay there. Otherwise, if I do something with time, boom, he's back where he was, and the pose doesn't even exist with him anymore. But if you do a motion, it all registers because it all has to do with time. So you don't have to do that yourself. In addition to having this sequences of poses be a motion, you have to have how does it get from here to there. Does it just go, linearly, or does it like start out quickly changing and then slow down at change and then speed up the change again? So that's what this good old interpolation curve is. The rotation moves, let's just pick for these two bones, for the arm. His arm movement slightly curved, so it starts moving kind of quickly, and then it moves more or less just pretty linearly. Then it speeds up again. For this one, kind of the same thing. If I select these, we've got a different, you can make it more, you can change the shape, and that will again speed up or slow down how he's moving from one pose to another. So let's say, for instance, my hand, just look at my hand right now. I can either go from point A to point B, like very evenly, and that's kind of linear, right? That's pretty linear. Or I can do it in this, again, this curvy way, which is like this. So that's kind of what you're seeing, is that the rate at which he's moving from one pose to another changes. So there's not only the velocity at which he goes from, let's say, one hand position to the other, but there's also the velocity itself is changing. So he's got some, starts off slow and accelerates, and then slows back down, or starts off quick and slows down kind of in the middle, and then speeds back up to the end. So this interpolation curve is more about how it goes from one pose to another, which is why it changes when you select that particular, oops, I'm not in it, which is why it will change depending on what pose you've selected, what bone you selected, these sorts of things. It interpolates specifically based on that, and that's its own complicated topic that I really don't intend to cover. But it interpolates from the movement, from X, Y, Z. It interpolates from the rotation, or you can show literally all of them all at once. So most of these are going to be pretty similar. I'm sure they've just used a standard going from one to another. And if you, let's say you select all of them because you're a statistic, I don't know. Then you can see all of the different interpolations that happen. So the interpolation is about how it gets from one pose to another, especially in terms of speed. The poses are just point A and point B that you're going from and to. So that's a little bit more about this bottom pane, what the different things do. In here, you got your lighting, again, which affects your coloration some. You've got camera, you've got stuff like view angle. You've got your shadows, and you've got your interpolation between things. which also cameras do have interpolation, and that's going to be very, very specific. Because again, you might want to start here and then speed up and then slow down when you're above them and then speed up and kind of go around weird things. So camera interpolation is a big deal. Motion interpolation, less of a big deal. But so long as you are importing motions, importing cameras, you don't have to worry about that. Just know that that's what those are. This is kind of the how it goes from point A to point B, and everything in here is the point A and point B that you're going through. And with that, that is pretty much the gist of how you do a very basic level 1. And this is a group, so it's a little bit complicated for a level 1, right? But a complicated level 1 video. So, next time I will be showing you about level 2 and some of the background stuff that goes into this. So, see you in that video. Bye! Bye, bye. I want to look at you when I say bye. Where are you at? Bye! That's not what I want. That's not what I want. That's not what I want. Boom.
Selby.